Mallorca is the most popular travel destination in Spain. It's the largest of the Balearic Islands and has been pulling tourists in since the 1960s. And yet, it's still possible to have a good time. A great time, actually, if you know where you're going and why. Mallorca sits in the western Mediterranean, around 180 kilometres off the east coast of mainland Spain. It's a compact landmass of about 100 kilometres across. The northwest is dominated by the Serra de Tramuntana, a mountain range running nearly the length of the island. The central plains are rural and agricultural, with quiet villages and olive groves. The coasts range from overbuilt to untouched, depending on which direction you're driving. The capital, Palma, is the island's only real city and home to about half the permanent population. Speaking of Palma, you have to fly in there. Palma de Mallorca airport is one of the busiest in Europe during summer. Flights are cheap if you book early and brutal if you don't. There are also ferries from Barcelona or Valencia, but unless you're bringing a car or fear flying, just take the plane. Once you land, you should rent a car. Unless you're staying in Palma the whole time, you'll need wheels. Public transport works, but it doesn't love you. The buses are slow, trains are limited, and taxis will eat your budget alive. The local language is Catalan, specifically a dialect called Mallorquí. Spanish is spoken everywhere, of course. English in most places too. Tourism accounts for over 40% of Mallorca's GDP, and beach tourism still rules the numbers. The island lives on a rhythm. High season is June through September, with August as the absolute peak. During this period, beaches are packed, hotel rates skyrocket, and restaurant reservations become necessary in the more popular towns. Palma is set on the southwestern coast of Mallorca, built around a broad natural bay that's protected by headlands and hills. It faces the sea with its cathedral and harbour, and stretches back inland with dense neighbourhoods, markets and stone alleys. The city is surrounded by the Serra de Tramuntana to the north, and low rolling plains to the east. It has space, wind and serious light. The sea defines one edge, the rest is built up in stone and sun. Palma is old. Founded by the Romans, expanded by the Moors, conquered by the Crown of Aragon, and reshaped again and again. It's been ruled, rebuilt, besieged and absorbed into multiple layers of Mediterranean history. You feel that in the city's layout: tight alleys, long boulevards, sudden shifts from palaces to apartments. You also feel it in the architecture. The Gothic Cathedral of Liceu, facing the sea with high vaults and Catalan pride, defines the skyline. Behind it, the Palau de l'Almudena, a royal palace that was once a Muslim fortress, still flies the Spanish flag. Nearby, 19th century mansions stand beside brutalist concrete slabs from the post-Franco construction boom. The city didn't wait for tourism to define it, but tourism did reshape it, starting in the 1960s, when Mallorca became a sun and sand playground for northern Europeans. Hotels went up, flights multiplied, tour companies locked in their deals. Palma, with its airport and port, became the nerve centre of one of the most profitable mass tourism economies in Europe. Today, the city receives around 2 million overnight tourists per year, and over 1.5 million cruise passengers dock here annually. Add in day trippers, second homeowners and part-time digital migrants, and you begin to understand the scale. Palma is divided between its historic centre, its newer residential zones, and the wider sprawl that creeps toward the airport and the highway ring. Most visitors stay near the core, the Casco Antiguo, Santa Catalina, and the coastal neighbourhoods between the cathedral and Portixol. The Casco Antiguo, or Old Town, is the main draw, a dense tangle of alleys, plazas and stone buildings. It's still lived in, but only barely. The housing stock has been chipped away by short-term rentals and speculative investment. Still, it holds architectural depth: 15th century palaces, quiet convents, Baroque churches, and former merchant homes with interior patios and iron balconies. Many have been restored, some are still peeling, and all are expensive. Up the hills to the north is Castel de Belvey, a rare circular castle with views over the whole city. What makes Belvey truly unique is its circular design, which is extremely rare in European castle architecture. Built in the early 1300s for King James II of Mallorca, the building has a central courtyard surrounded by a circular wall and 4 towers, one of them detached and connected by a bridge. The castle's design combines elements of Gothic style with the practical needs of a fortress. Before we continue, please hit the like button to help our channel grow. Magaluf is Mallorca's most infamous resort. Not the prettiest, not the oldest, not the most refined, but for better or worse, it's the place that shaped what beach tourism looks like. It sits on the island's southwest coast, about 15 kilometres from Palma, sandwiched between other purpose-built resorts like Palma Nova and Torrenova. Magaluf wasn't built to connect with Mallorca. It was built to serve people who wanted sun, drinks, English menus, and anonymity. And it does that, without flinching, without shame, without even blinking. The geography is plain, a broad bay, a long beach, a flat stretch of land behind it. What you see now is a grid of mid-rise hotels, nightclubs, fast food outlets, and sunbed-lined beachfront. There's no old town, no architectural layers. It was all built after the 1960s, when Franco's government opened Spain to mass European tourism. Hotels were built fast and flights got cheap. And by the 1980s, Magaluf had a brand, cheap, British, full on. It became a magnet for budget holidaymakers, mainly from the UK, looking for sea and sun. By the 2000s, it was infamous. Fights, drinking, balcony accidents, news stories, reality TV. But while the rest of Mallorca tried to pivot toward upscale tourism, Magaluf doubled down, until recently. The town is still wild, but it's not out of control anymore. Local government and private investors have spent the last decade trying to clean it up. Some of the worst bars are gone, some of the party boats are banned, public drinking is restricted, nightclub zones are now under surveillance. Magaluf Beach is wide, golden and swimmable, with calm water and all kinds of water sports. The sand is soft and the views are decent. You can swim here all day and forget what surrounds you. The beachfront is pretty clean, with real sand, lifeguards and boardwalks. Off-season, the town is quiet. You can walk for an hour without hearing English. Most people come to Mallorca for the beaches, but what they remember, if they go far enough, is the mountains. The Serra de Tramuntana runs along the entire northwest edge of the island, a wall of rock, forest and terraced stone that stretches for about 90 kilometres from Andratx in the southwest to Pollenca in the northeast. It's not the Alps, it's not the Pyrenees, but it doesn't need to be. This range defines the geography, weather, agriculture and architecture of the island, and without it, Mallorca wouldn't feel like Mallorca. The Tramuntana doesn't just offer scenic backdrops. It holds water, makes wind, blocks storms, filters sunlight, and shapes every village that sits along its slopes. This is where the island keeps its memory and its hard ground. The Serra de Tramuntana is a limestone mountain range formed by the same tectonic forces that built the Balearic system across southern Spain. Over time, water cut through the stone, forming gorges, caves, cliffs and canyons. The rock is porous, the land fractured. It looks dry, but underground, the range stores much of the island's fresh water. Its highest point is Palma de Mallorca, at 1,445 metres, the tallest mountain in the Balearics. You can't summit it because it's a military zone, but you can hike almost everything around it. And when you do, you'll see how steep this range really is. The Tramuntana has never been easy land. People didn't come here to relax, they came to survive. For centuries, the range was settled by farmers, monks and stonemasons who carved flat ground into the hills by building kilometres of dry stone terraces. No mortar, just stone on stone. They grew olives, almonds, figs, citrus and raised goats. They built cisterns, canals and paths into rock so they could hold rain, move water and trade what little they had. This system, known as the Mallorcan dry stone technique, was so extensive and so effective that in 2011 UNESCO declared the entire Serra de Tramuntana a World Heritage Site for cultural landscape. Valldemossa is located about 17 kilometres north of Palma, on a winding road that cuts into the Serra de Tramuntana. It sits at 400 metres above sea level, just low enough to escape alpine harshness, just high enough to be cooler and quieter than the coast. The landscape around it is layered: terraced olive groves, dry stone walls, limestone ridges, and sudden glimpses of the sea to the west. Pines and oaks grow close to the road. You smell earth, stone, and herbs, especially after rain. This place was chosen for defence and isolation, and while it no longer feels remote, the layout still reflects its medieval logic. No straight lines, no wide squares, no extra space. The name Valldemossa comes from the Arabic Wadi Musa, or Valley of Moses. After the Christian reconquest, it remained a rural village for centuries, poor, devout, tucked away in the hills. Its main historical claim is the Real Cartuja de Valldemossa, a Carthusian monastery originally built as a royal residence in the 14th century, later converted into a monastic complex. In the 19th century, the monastery was secularized and divided into private apartments. In 1838, two of its most famous short-term residents moved in: the Polish composer Frédéric Chopin and the French writer Georges Sand. They came to escape the Paris winter. They got cold rain, leaky ceilings, and local suspicion instead. Sand wrote about it in A Winter in Mallorca, a slim but sharp book that criticised the locals for being closed, the climate for being misleading, and the monastery for being damp and inhospitable. It was not a love letter. That winter didn't change Valldemossa, but over time, the legend around it helped build the town's modern tourist economy. Today, Valldemossa has around 2,000 permanent residents, many of whom live in the lower parts of town, away from the tourist-packed upper centre. You walk here, that's the main thing. The town isn't about activities or attractions, it's about movement through space. Valldemossa gets well over 1 million visitors per year, which is a lot for a village this small. Some come for an hour, others stay for a few days. A few wealthy foreign residents stay all year. The result is a village that feels at times like a set piece. Valldemossa is beautiful, that part's true, but it's also crowded, expensive, and sometimes too aware of its own beauty. Es Trenc is located on the southern coast of Mallorca, in the municipality of Campos, between the resort town of Colonia de Sant Jordi and the inland village of Ses Salines. It faces directly south, looking out at the open Mediterranean. The beach itself is long, flat, and nearly straight. The sand is fine, white, and soft, unlike the coarse gravel of many northern coves. The water is shallow and absurdly turquoise, especially under high sun. For many, it's the closest Mallorca gets to the Caribbean, at least visually. Behind the beach are dunes, pine groves, and a wide stretch of salt flats, still active and historically important. To the west is Playa de Ses Covetes, which is smaller and quieter. To the east, the coast curves into small rocky headlands and marshland. The moment you step onto Es Trenc, everything feels a bit farther away. There are no cliffs and no buildings, no shade unless you bring it. Just a vast horizontal openness that's hard to find on the rest of the island. The sand goes on, the water stays knee-deep for a long time. In peak season, you'll need to park in one of several large lots outside the beach area and walk in. You can't park on the dunes or leave your vehicle on the sand. A shuttle sometimes runs from Campos or Colonia, depending on the season. The walk is sandy, exposed, and hot in summer. Es Trenc gets crowded, especially in July and August, and especially on weekends. The parking lots fill. The path to the beach becomes a trail of coolers and umbrellas. Es Trenc wasn't always protected. In the 1970s and 80s, there were plans to build it up. Hotels, roads, golf courses, the development pressure was enormous, but resistance was strong. Environmental groups, local farmers, and ordinary residents fought to preserve it. They understood what was at stake. After years of court battles and public campaigns, Es Trenc was declared part of a protected natural park. Cala Millor is a network of coves and villas on Mallorca's southeast coast. It's not wild or spontaneous, it's organised, planned and tourist-ready, but it also feels strangely calm. And for many people, especially families, it hits a balance between ease, access and scenery that's hard to beat. It's not romantic, but it's livable. Cala Millor sits on the southeast coast of Mallorca, about 60 kilometres from Palma, in the municipality of Santanyí. The permanent population is around 4,000, the summer population easily 5 to 6 times that. It was founded in the 1930s by a Catalan artist and architect, Josep Costa Ferrer, who wanted to create a Mediterranean resort based on the low white architecture of Ibiza. And that's what he did. White cubes, flat roofs, uniform lines, a little Bauhaus, a little Balearic, a lot of whitewash. That natural geography is what shaped the town. Cala Millor isn't one beach. It's 5 main calas and a few smaller ones, strung together by roads, walkways and low-slung buildings. The entire town is built on a slightly elevated plateau above the sea. That makes it open, breezy and easy to navigate. The water here is unusually clear even for Mallorca, sheltered, shallow, with hardly a wave in sight. You wade in, float for hours, let the afternoon pass. If you want something more rugged, you can find it nearby. Just 10 minutes south is Mondragón Natural Park, where the cliffs are higher, the water wilder, and the walking trails run past untouched coves. Deia sits on the northwest coast of Mallorca, between Valldemossa and Sóller. It's in the mountains, but close enough to the sea that you can walk down in half an hour. For centuries, this was a poor place. Dry, difficult land, isolated by mountains, sustained by olives, goats, and rainwater. The turning point in Deia's modern story is one name, Robert Graves. He came here in the 1920s. He stayed, wrote, and other people followed. Writers, artists, expats, dropouts. Some were looking for isolation, others for a place to think clearly. Many never really left. In the second half of the 20th century, that scene evolved. Deia became a magnet for anyone creative, burned out or rich enough to disappear. Musicians, actors, producers, photographers, novelists. Most of them didn't advertise it. That was part of the draw. You could live here, quietly, and still be part of something. But with attention comes money, and with money comes pressure. Real estate exploded. Traditional homes became seasonal retreats. Some locals sold, others held on. Today, Deia walks a tight line between village and brand. You can walk through it in 15 minutes. The main road, MA10, cuts across the middle, steep and slow. On one side are shops, small hotels and restaurants. Some are overpriced. A few are exceptional. On the other side are narrow lanes, stone stairs and flower pots. At the top is Sant Joan Baptista, the church. Behind it is the cemetery where Robert Graves is buried, under a rough stone with no epitaph. Port de Sóller is shaped like a half-moon, sitting between 2 rocky promontories, with the Tramuntana Mountains rising like a wall behind it. This is one of the few natural harbours on Mallorca's rugged northwest coast. For a long time, it was simply that, a port, nothing more. The inland town of Sóller, a few kilometres away, was rich with citrus and olive oil, but it needed a way out. The mountains blocked roads, so the produce came down in carts or by foot and left by ship. The return trip brought in coffee and textiles, from France mostly, where many Sollerics had emigrated. They made their fortunes and returned with new ways of thinking and building. That's why Sóller and its port feel different from other Mallorcan towns. There's a trace of outwardness here, a sense of having looked beyond the island and then come back. The tram that now connects Port de Sóller with the town inland, charming, wooden and bright, is more than a photo opportunity. It's the last echo of the old lifeline, and when it creaks past you, with its brass fittings and slow wheels, you can feel that it once mattered. Not for tourists, but for oranges. On one end, the Faro de Cap Gros lighthouse guards the entrance. On the other, the old military batteries and pine trees frame the sea. The town itself is split into 2 halves. The fishing side, Sa Punta, which is still quieter, more local, more lived in, and the tourist side, Es Trenc, where hotels and apartments climb the slope behind the beach. The town itself is modest. A thin layer of hotels and apartments behind the beach, a row of shops and restaurants along the promenade, a marina with tidy masts at the far end. But unlike other Mallorcan resorts, Port de Sóller doesn't sell a fantasy. There's no imitation of old villages, no recreated charm. What's here grew out of use, not decoration. Port de Sóller attracts people who want to be near the water but not owned by it. You'll mostly meet older couples on slow holidays, families with sand-covered backpacks and no plans, and hikers descending from Deia or Fornalutx. At the northernmost tip of Mallorca, a narrow strip of limestone fights the sea until it can't anymore. The road's thin, the trees bow, and finally the cliffs drop straight into the Mediterranean. Cap de Formentor belongs to the municipality of Pollenca, but it feels like a place apart. It's located at the tip of the Formentor Peninsula, a jagged finger of land that juts northeast from the rest of the island into open water. The whole peninsula is part of the Serra de Tramuntana. There is only one road to Cap de Formentor, the MA 2210, a narrow winding strip of tarmac that starts just outside Port de Pollenca and runs 18 kilometres along cliffs, ridgelines and pine forest to the very edge of the island. The road is famous, for good reason. It's one of the most scenic drives in Europe, but it's not easy. Hairpin turns, steep drops, cyclists, tour buses, goats. In high season, it gets crowded fast. Since 2018, car access has been restricted during the summer months to reduce traffic. Buses run instead, and the road becomes a haven for walkers and cyclists. There's talk of making the restrictions permanent or expanding them, and maybe that's for the best. Some places are too fragile to become products. You should take your time and pull over when you can. There are lookouts. Mirador Es Colomer is the most famous, and each one is worth the stop. At the very tip of the peninsula sits the Faro de Formentor, a white lighthouse built in 1863. It stands 210 metres above sea level. There's nothing else there, just the lighthouse, a car park, a tiny cafe, and a ledge where you can stand and feel the earth fall away beneath you. On clear days you can see Menorca, on cloudy ones you see only water and sky. You should go early in the morning or in the late afternoon. In summer, the midday sun turns the road into a white-hot tunnel and the viewpoint parking lots into battle zones. But in the first hours of the day, or in the golden hour before sunset, you'll see Cap de Formentor at its best. Alcudia is two places at once. There's Alcudia the town, hidden behind medieval stone walls in the northeast of Mallorca, where the streets are narrow, the buildings old, and the past still fits the present. And then there's Port d'Alcudia, just 2 kilometres down the road. Beach hotels, marinas, families, bikes, beach bars, jet skis, and fried calamari. You can walk between the two in 20 minutes, but they feel like they're on different timelines. One looks inward, the other stretches out to the sea. Together, they make Alcudia one of the most interesting travel destinations on the island. Alcudia is located in the northeastern corner of Mallorca, between the Bay of Pollenca and the larger Bay of Alcudia. The land here is flat, ringed by low hills to the north and open farmland to the south. The coast curves, forming wide beaches and natural harbours, which is exactly why humans have settled here for over 2,000 years. The main town sits on a slight rise, just inland from the water, protected by medieval walls and surrounded by orchards, fields and modern villas. Port d'Alcudia lines the coast, built out over the 20th century into one of Mallorca's biggest tourist zones. Together, they form one municipality with about 20,000 permanent residents. The modern town grew up in the medieval period. It was fortified in the 14th century by order of King James II, who understood the threat of coastal pirates. The walls, stone, squared, and still fully walkable, still enclose the heart of the town. Inside the walls, the town stayed small and quiet for centuries. Agriculture and fishing drove the economy. That only changed in the second half of the 20th century, when tourism arrived. Port d'Alcudia is a different story. Here, the focus is the beach, long, wide, white-sanded and shallow, a stretch that runs almost 7 kilometres east. The beach is the draw for families, swimmers, paddleboarders, and the all-inclusive resort crowd. The water is calm and the amenities are stacked. Just 7 kilometres northwest of Alcudia, you'll find the sleepy little town of Pollenca. Most coastal towns on Mallorca look outward, toward the water, the beach, the sun. Pollenca looks inland. It's a town built under mountains, not beside the sea. A place that holds its weight in stone and shadow, where the walls run thick, the streets run crooked, and the rhythm is slow. The setting is serious. The Puig de Maria, a forested hill with a 14th century monastery, rises just above town. Behind that, cliffs, ravines, and the start of the Tramuntana mountain range. The centre of Pollenca is made of sandy golden stone, low buildings, and narrow lanes that twist and fold over one another. Dominating one end of the town is the Església de Nostra Senora dels Àngels, the main parish church. It's heavy, tall, and simple. On the opposite edge of town rises the Calvary Steps, 365 stone steps leading to a small chapel and one of the best views on the island. It's not a tourist gimmick, it's part of the town's geometry. Every walk through Pollenca leads you up or down. Unlike the inland town of Pollenca, which dates back to the Middle Ages, Port de Pollenca is a modern town. It was developed in the 19th and 20th centuries as a fishing harbour, and later as a landing spot for Mallorcan and European holidaymakers. In the early 20th century, it began attracting artists and intellectuals. The painter Hermenegildo Anglada Camarasa had a house here. So did Agatha Christie, briefly, who described the place in her story Problem at Pollenca Bay, noting its mix of calm, water, and sun-bleached quiet. In the 1960s and 70s, the tourism boom hit. Hotels were built, roads were widened, flights arrived, but Port de Pollenca never went full high-rise. No mega resorts, no boardwalk amusement parks, just beachfront apartment blocks, hotels, villas, and slow traffic. It has changed, but it hasn't disappeared. Arta sits in the northeast of the island, backed by the Yevan mountain range, the last foothills before the Mediterranean folds into flat farmland. Its geography has always kept it slightly out of reach, from invasion, from overdevelopment, and, until recently, from mass tourism. The town itself is a dense web of honey-coloured stone buildings, shaded alleys, green shutters, and quiet courtyards. The houses rise gently with the slope, leading toward the Sant Salvador sanctuary that crowns the town's hilltop. You can see it from almost anywhere, walls circling the old monastery, standing watch over the tiled roofs below. It's not a castle, though it looks like one. It's also not a church in the usual sense, though one sits inside its walls. It's a hybrid, part fortress, part religious retreat, and part observation post, both ancient and enduring. Within the walls stands the Church of Sant Salvador, a quiet, austere building with a Baroque altarpiece, faded frescoes, and a single nave filled with filtered light. The church isn't elaborate, but it feels serious. It's rooted in local devotion, not built to impress. It was restored in the 19th century after periods of neglect, and now it's maintained with quiet pride. The entrance to the stairway sits just above the town centre, near the edge of the historic quarter. The climb isn't difficult, but it changes your pace. The steps are broad, not steep, and there's room to pause. The town's central main street, Carrer Ciutat, has some really nice cafes, bakeries, and art galleries. There's no beach here, no marina, and yet Arta feels like a centre of gravity. It's solid, slow, and fully Mallorcan. Some travellers drift in, but they're not the main event. Arta's weekly Tuesday market is still at its core for the people who live here. Cala Millor sits on the east coast of Mallorca, between the towns of Son Servera and Sant Llorenç de Cardassar, about 70 kilometres from Palma. The name means better cove, optimistic, even a little smug, but not far off the mark. The beach is excellent, wide, sandy, flat, and nearly 2 kilometres long. The water is shallow, clear and calm on most days. Behind the beach is the Passeig Marítim, a long pedestrian promenade that runs parallel to the sea, lined with palms, ice cream stands, rental bikes, and hotel entrances. Behind that, a grid of streets filled with mid-rise apartment blocks, restaurants, clinics, tour offices, and mini golf courses. The town is compact, flat, and built for movement, especially for families, the elderly and sun-seekers who want ease over exploration. Cala Millor has a permanent population of about 6,000, but in summer it can swell to well over 35,000 as hotels fill and the beach reaches full capacity. And yet it handles the flow. This is a place designed for tourism at scale. You land here by car, taxi or transfer bus, and everything is ready. The streets are clean. The signs are in 5 languages. The luggage wheels roll smoothly over flat sidewalks. You know exactly where you are, at the edge of a system that was built to work. The beach is the town's anchor. It's big enough to spread out, clean enough to stay all day, and backed by every convenience you could ask for. It's not hidden or wild, but it's safe, soft, and reliable. And around that, you build a day. At night, the lights come on, street performers set up, karaoke happens, you walk the promenade and enjoy being part of the crowd. It's light entertainment, gentle noise, and safe fun. And for a lot of people, that's the whole point. Did you ever travel to Mallorca? Let us know in the comments. If you loved this video, hit the like button and subscribe to World Travel Guide.